about building a business case in 20 minutes, which is interesting because typically you only have 10 minutes to tell the story. Do we have the slides up? No? We're waiting. This is the part where you do this. The slides aren't up. Still waiting. All right, so let's just talk about that a little bit. So what I want to talk about today is how you tell a value story, all right? So it's about the value story itself. It's not just about building the business case. And no, that's not my, one more minute. So when I say you only have 10 minutes to tell a story, it's true. And the attention span is very short. And when you put the story together, you really only have 10 minutes to tell it in front of a particular audience. Still AV trouble. Unlike Bill, I actually depend on my slides. Unsupported signal. Hang on. All right. There it is. Yay. It's on the main screen, but it's not on the comfort monitor. So let's just start out with a little bit of a preamble. What do you think of when you hear the word dog? All right? So if a dog bit you when you were a kid, you're probably thinking of the really nasty one over there. If a dog was a cute little puppy, you have a different feeling about what dog is for you. Still not on the comfort monitor. So the idea is the same for value. The word value means something different to everybody, just like the word dog. Before we get into the value itself, let me just kind of set up where we are in HR. Now, we all know that we're sort of nothing in the fourth revolution, the fourth industrial revolution, driven by computer automation has moved us now into AI. Bill talked about that just a little while ago. And so there's a real impact to us in terms of that. As a matter of fact, some research shows that the kids entering elementary school are going to have jobs that they never even had before up until now. And what's going on for us from a digital perspective and the digitation's perspective is driving the revenue is very significant, but even more significant in Asia. Digital revenue, there it is, digital revenue and the skills driven by that digital revenue are on top of mind when it comes to Asia in particular. So from a global average perspective, more and more that share, but it also means that you need to have digital skills to go with it. Now, if you think about that, the World Economic Forum does a study around global skills. And what was really interesting about this is not that the growing skills and the shrinking skills and those things, but the fact that they say half the skills by 2020 are likely to atrophy. And what that means is by 2022, you're going to need 101 days of training. Well, that's 10% of the total time. So what are we going to do about that? How do we manage those skills? And what that means for us as HR people is it creates opportunity for us to talk about this because it has impact to the business, all right? So where in the past we focused on those transactions and we've focused on the administration and we've focused on making sure that we do employees, manager, self-service and those other things, we now have the opportunity to be strategy people. That's what was being asked for us, strategy, as well as the overall planning and consolidation and doing data-driven kinds of stuff. So what that means to us is opportunity, but it also means that we have to present our findings in a way that connects to the rest of the business. So where should we focus? Well, if you think about that focus, we can always talk about the doables, the efficiency, the business impact, right? We've been doing that with ERP for years. We took costs out of our payroll systems and everything else, so our payroll rates went down and so on. But the real bang comes from the effectiveness. So the initiatives that drive that 2022, the initiatives that drive the business is where the real ROI comes from, and we're going to talk about that, all right? So as we decide from a strategic planning perspective in our new roles as HR practitioners that we're going to embark on an initiative, where's the most impact to the business? We have to do that analysis for ourselves. All right, what do I mean by business impact? You have to be able to answer questions. You have to be able to articulate them, and you have to be able to answer them. So are you using the right channels? Is your impact on customer satisfaction? What are the initiatives and what kinds of business questions can we answer when it comes to that initiative? But the most important question to ask is, do we support the strategic business goals? All right? Common goals are they're pretty easy, right? Increase revenue, increase customer satisfaction, decrease cost, decrease risk. At some level, all your business goals are one of those four things. So whatever your initiative is, it has to tie to that in some way, shape, or form. We'll talk about that a little bit more. When you tell this story, this business case, just like dog, business case means something to somebody and everybody else. When you tell this story, it needs to be a story. So a business case itself captures the reason and the business impact, but it has to be in support of that specific business need. Sometimes it's a written document, but sometimes it's a conversation. Remember I said in the beginning while I was struggling waiting for the slides, you have 10 minutes to tell your story. 10 minutes, you have to tell the story, all right? All right, so how do I start with that? How do you tell the story? Well, there's the idea of hard costs and soft costs. And on the left side, that's what your CHRO is interested in. That's what your CEO is interested in. It's those things that impede their commit to the street, their commit to their boards on what they're going to do. On the right side, that's your CFO and your CIO, the more hard costs. Don't steer away from the intangibles. I'm going to give you some examples here before we close. Those hard costs are hard costs, and they're typically total cost of ownership kinds of things. That's fine. But it's the other things that move the needle for HR that actually have impact at the business, and we're going to walk through that. So you have to tell a story, all right? If you just say, you know what? A bag of popcorn has 37 grams of saturated fat. It's a fact. It's great. What does it tell you? Instead of, you know what? A bag of popcorn is the same as eating all that stuff combined. Well, that's a little more impactful. It's a visual. You're telling a story. You're creating more of a storyboard around that. So let's take that to the next step from an HR perspective. How does 37 grams of fat in that popcorn affect me? Every high potential employee lost has an organizational cost of 4 times their annual salary. Good? Kinda. Okay. Let's take it a step further. What if I say my hypo turnover was 3.5% last year? Now, if I'm sitting in front of the C-level, you're going to get an eye roll. Your hypo's 3.5%. So, rather, when you tell the story, you need to make it look like the French fries and the hamburger and the eggs and everything else. We lost 285 employees last year, and that cost us $14 million. Now you're starting to tell a story that has impact, okay? All right, so how do you tell that story? What's your message? You got to build a message. So you have to start out as, what's happening to the business? What needs to be done? Can we do something from an HR initiative perspective? What investments do I need to do that with? And what's the financial impact? And again, you have 10 minutes to tell the story, tops, okay? So the message has to be crisp, the message has to be clear. Here's an example. So let's talk about what's happening in the business all the way through. Our strategy for organic growth is at risk. We need to do a better job retaining our high performers, but we don't have what we need for adequate development and succession planning, and it'll cost about $180,000 a year to do that, but it has a potential impact of $14 million a year. If I can move that needle by just 5%, it has an $800,000 impact to the bottom line. Boom. Story. Message. Clear, concise, organized, and structured. You need to be able to do that for every component of the initiative that you're supporting. Does this make sense? Straightforward in a structure. It's the same as what happens in Hollywood when they write scripts. When you're in front of customer satisfaction, you're creating a structure to the story. All right? All right. So let's put our message together. We've created this message. Here's a framework that we use internally for ourselves. I have a practice that does this stuff on a regular basis in conjunction with our customers as an investment in our customer base. So we use this. we talk about it from a from a template perspective. On the left, those are the business strategies, okay? In the middle, those are the talent needs. So if we think about it from that perspective, if you look up here, notice the dotted lines. The left to the middle is not a one-to-one relationship. Those strategies on the left are themes. The talent needs in the middle are also themes, okay? So what's happening in the business? What do we think needs to be done from a talent perspective? And then, what value metrics might I include? And in this template, notice that the dotted line goes away and it becomes one-to-one again. So we have to fill in with the talent metrics now that we've told our story, okay? But before we do that, let's take a look at some of the metrics we can use. Now, here we go. I'll pause for a minute so you can all memorize this. No. There's a lot of stuff we can measure, right? And these are literally HR KPIs, if you wanted to. Well, here's some talent KPIs, all right? But that's still too many. There's some good ones up here, by the way. One of my favorites is the new hire 90-day failure rate. That's a good one, right? So, but still, too much. Rather, let's hone in on things that are really focused for ourselves. And we think of it as good, better, and best. Good is value for HR. So reduce administrative time, we've been doing that for years, all right? And that actually can mean many things. Make it easier to report, also good. Good. But better might be reducing time to hire, speed the time to productivity. That's better, right? Has impact. And best, because remember, we're trying to tell a story to the C-suite because we want their buy-in for an investment. The best is to tie to the business outcomes. Increase revenue. Grow revenue per employee. Customer satisfaction is one. Improving profitability. Those are the things that the CFO and the CEO pay attention to. So you're trying to draw a straight line analysis with good, better, and best. You need a mix of them all, but you want to tie it back to that story. All right, pause. Remember the template? Business strategies on the left, talent needs in the middle, metrics on the right. Here it is filled out. It's a one-slide executive summary for you to be able to tell the story. And so what we've done is we said we want profitable growth, digitization for scale, right? So the talent needs are productivity, retaining key talent, availability of critical skills. We talked about the World Economic Forum. There are the metrics I chose. Time to productivity, reduce turnover of high potentials. Remember our story there. Revenue per employee, average costs in support of growth. These are, if nothing else, when you sit down in front of the funding board, the C-suite, wherever it is that you have to go, this is your opening slide. Whatever you want to do to tee up, this is your executive summary, okay? All right, so you have to do the math though, because it is a business case. And so I'm going to warn you ahead of time, we're going to do a little math, all right? Okay, so look up here. Speed to full productivity, one of my favorites. Sometimes considered a soft cost or an intangible cost, but candidly, has real impact to the bottom line, all right? Always show your math. Notice that on the right, remember when you were in school and you were doing algebra or whatever, and your teacher said, did you show your work? Okay, show your work. So we use this is a template as well. So the calculation on the right tells you where the data points come from. Notice that we call out things like daily salary. That's the average salary divided by the number of average days in a year, 260, right? You're calling those things out. So speed to full productivity, you're literally saying if I could reduce it from 60 to 59 days, which would be a 2% improvement, we're seeing just 115,000. But in many ways, that can be much, much more. Speed to productivity has implications across many things, technology, process, onboarding, and so on. Typically, we see movement of 10 to 15% on that. Could be $1 million. Does that make sense? And the other thing I want you to notice is, at the bottom of this, we're using words to tell the story, okay? Not everybody's a numbers person. So your talk track is on the bottom. With our remember the 6 pillars on how you structure your message. With our growth strategy, we onboard a lot more people than we used to. The onboarding system needs to be delivered more efficiency. With as little as 2% improvement, we can increase $115,000. Okay? How about high potentials? Same idea. If I can decrease the high potential turnover by 10%, I go from 75 to 68. At a cost, that means just 8 people at a cost of $90,000. That's $675,000. You're showing your math. Now, you will never be questioned on the math, okay? Your CFO is never going to go, well, that math doesn't work unless your math doesn't work. But you are going to be questioned on the assumptions. That's where it lives. Now, my assumption here is that I can reduce the high potential turnover by 10%, okay? You're going to get challenged on that. Candidly, if they say, I don't think it's 10%, Mike, I think it's 5%, you need to go, great, got it, because now they own the number. They own the assumption, okay? But where do you get that 10%? What you should do is go take a look at engagement. Engagement is one of those things employee engagement, everybody rolls their eyes, right? But look at here. There is research all over the place, third-party benchmarks that you can use to tie back to your calculations, whether it be in customer sat, whether it be productivity, whether it be shrinkage, if you're a high inventory kind of an organization, whether it be absenteeism. In mines, it's safety and safety incidents. Whatever is specific to your business, use these third-party benchmarks as your improvement metrics in your math. I hope that makes sense. I told you. 20 minutes, we're going to fly. Also, remember, eventually, you're going to have to tell a business case, all right? So there's a slope, and there's some math that go with it. And you have to distinguish between efficiency and effectiveness. Efficiency is very good, 1.5 point to 2, but we've been doing that for years. And if you look at that Gartner prediction on the bottom, in 2016, they said people that focus on efficiency by 2019 will be missing the boat. It's the effectiveness measures, the leading measures around effectivity that are going to carry the day. Last, what's the risk of doing nothing? So all the time we're talking about all the good things that could happen. What would happen to the business if we don't do anything? We typically take the total dollar amount of our ROI, divide it by 12, and call it the monthly burn rate. Every month you delay costs the business this much. Quality, safety, all the other things associated with it. To summarize, how have you created need? How do you lose funding to other projects, right? Do you tie your efforts to measurable outcomes? Do you show your work? And do you consider risk in that document? 10 minutes to tell the story, okay? I blew through this in 20 minutes. There's a lot of more detail to this. It's both art, structuring your message, and science, doing the math. But if you put the two together, you'll find that you will be, more often than not, you will be funded because you're tying to the business outcome. And right now, as HR practitioners, there is never a better time in our lifetimes because everybody is focused on people moving the needle. With that, if you're interested, you want to talk more, I'm around for the rest of the day. Feel free to follow me, feel free to tweet me. There's my phone number, there's my email. We're here to help. It's an investment that Cornerstone, you'll notice I didn't talk about our product at all. It's an investment that Cornerstone makes in the market. Rising tide lifts all ships. Thank you very much.